morning, everybody. All right. Okay. So we'll just begin with refuge, bodhicitta, motivation. We go for refuge to all the Buddhas, so that all sentient beings may realize Buddhahood. We go for refuge to all the Buddhas, so that all sentient beings may realize Buddhahood. We go for refuge to all the Buddhas, so that all sentient beings may realize Buddhahood. Okay, so I'm just going to start with a few words about this weekend, the context within which we're going to be talking about Paticca Samuppada, emptiness, non-arising, non-ceasing, and what that really means. And it links very strongly to the theme of last year, love and compassion, and the apamanas, bodhicitta. The sentiment of wanting to have love and compassion for all beings, wishing them happiness, and wishing them above all to realize that unchanging happiness of liberation from samsara is going to depend on our realizing the true nature of our being and of samsara, really. What is the cessation of samsara? What is samsara? What is suffering? What is the cessation of suffering? And we can only realize that through that pathway into our own direct experience, as the Buddha himself told us that it's what he did, and he showed us the way to do that. The way to right view. The path starts with right view, which can be understood on all different levels, but that's what we're going to be examining. So we want to gain that right view because we want all beings to realize, to be happy, free from suffering, and to realize the happiness that goes beyond birth and death, so that all beings can realize their Buddha nature and have equal love for each other and all beings. Because you see all beings as Buddhas, so wonderful. So right view and compassion go together. Sometimes it's called wisdom and compassion, but to be precise, it's right view. The heart of the Buddha's teaching and path. The special quality, its unique selling point, you could say. If it's right view, then it's the Buddha's teaching. If it's the Buddha's teaching, it's right view. So it's as simple as that. So having put it in the context of love and compassion, last year we examined all the different practices associated with love and compassion, setting up a sense of direction, approaching the Dharma through love and compassion that actually could be the focus of one's path indefinitely. This could be your way of practicing and understanding the Dharma. And this is part of my vision for the whole 6 areas of the Living the Awakened Heart program. You take the principles of discovering the heart of Buddhism, particularly discovering the heart of Buddhism, and you apply them to the teachings of the Buddha. You understand the teachings of the Buddha within the light of your discovering the heart of Buddhism training, really, how you've learnt to kind of relate to your own experience through that. training and coming back to it all the time, spiral learning. So we didn't finish, we just began. And Tara is taking that forward now and continuing to get packages of materials together, getting courses together, being a go-to point for any of the mentors or teachers who want to teach or take groups or lead groups in that area. Then the person that they would talk to would be Tara, to find out what materials are available and her experience so far, what to look out for. So I see this as a program now going on for decades. So now that's number one. Now number two, the second area of living the awakened heart sangha is this, you could call it insight, you could call it wisdom, you could call it emptiness, or yes, I think you'll get the idea. You might want to call it absolute bodhicitta, but then absolute bodhicitta is both wisdom and compassion, so it doesn't really distinguish it from compassion, really. So it's the insight. We talk about shamatha and vipassana. So you need to establish some kind of shamatha, and then on the basis of that, your understanding can go deeper, and there's various teachings that help us to do that. So this year, Dashi is going to take the lead and be the go-to person for this area. So, and he's got a team of people already who'll be sort of working with him, which we'll go into as time goes on. So the kind of things that we'll be looking at this year to set this whole thing in motion, as it were, it's not all new stuff. It's like with the love and compassion, we've already done it, but we haven't really got it very organised and available and accessible. So in the same way, we want to do that with this area of insight. Let's call it insight. So what we'll be looking at, of course, is all based on the formless meditation exploration and the explorations in the Discovering the Heart of Buddhism course books. Those are kind of pointing out instructions. The different exercises in DHB, Discovering the Heart of Buddhism, are kind of pointing out instructions. They're supposed to be applied in your meditation as well as your daily life, so that they can help you take your practice deeper. And then every day, of course, we do the Heart Sutra. And we start off the day going straight into the perfection of wisdom, prajna paramita. So there's a lot more we can do on that, which we will be looking at this year. And then we've got Mahamudra Instructions. What is number 3? Yes, that's right. Mahamudra Instructions. We've studied the Rangjung Dorji's Mahamudra Pranidhana, which has got very good instructions in there, and sort of shows you where the path, how it begins and where it comes to an end. So you've got everything, in a way, everything you need in that prayer. So anything else that we do is kind of developing that further, or developing it so that we can understand that more deeply. And then you've got shorter instructions, like the four Dhammas of Gampopa, which we were reciting yesterday in the Trungpa Rinpoche's Sadhana of Mahamudra. And we've got also the prayer for realization. That's the prayer that is in the preliminary practice, the Ngundra practice, the Guru Yoga part of the Ngundra practice, which are really very good instructions. Again, it's got the whole path there, like from the start to the finish, just in, is it 6 lines? Anyway, however many lines it is. So that's again is something that condenses everything else that we're doing, so that, and that is also in the connection with Discovering the Heart of Buddhism, I think becomes more obvious as time goes on. So that's a whole approach, which you might call the approach of using upadesha, using direct instructions, so that you have quite concise instructions, but then the teacher or the mentor dialogue with other practitioners, you can kind of take that deeper by connecting it to your own practice. And in a way, that's a whole tradition in its own right. And the next section, the next area that I want us to explore is what we're going to look at this weekend. So I'm very excited about this, that we're going to be looking at this weekend. There's a tendency in Tibetan Buddhism to refer to the Shravakayana and the Pali sources as if they're somehow, belong to Hinayana as opposed to Mahayana Vajrayana. But actually, when you look at them, you realize that actually they're exactly parallel with these pointing out instructions of the Mahamudra and Dzogchen traditions, so that there's the same sort of directness and simplicity about them. It's just a matter of how deeply you understand them, which depends on how deeply they're being taught by practitioners to practitioners, rather than being picked up by scholars and studied and then interpreted in a sort of, as if it was some kind of philosophical treatise of some kind. So I want to really focus on that as the Four Noble Truths. I was looking today at the first turning of the Dharma wheel, Sutta, Dhamma Chakra Paravatana Sutta. It's well worth looking at. If you go to Access to Insight on Google, and then Google the Dhamma Chakra Paravatana. Pavatana, yes, Sutta, which goes through the Four Noble Truths. I might find time tomorrow to just kind of remind you of that, because it's such an important sutra, and it's the first sermon of the Buddha. This is it, the essence of the Buddha's teaching, and it. That sometimes the Four Noble Truths are presented as something that we could all understand, but what the Buddha's saying is, to really understand suffering. This was the big breakthrough. It's like this is something big. It's not just we all understand suffering. Cause of suffering, you'll get that. He's saying each of these four are major, and bearing that in mind, I think you can get a good sense of how significant his teaching on Paticcasamuppada is. And when Dashi was in retreat a couple of years ago, was it now? He really made a point of looking at these sutras, looking at the whole Pali Canon actually, and really noticing many things that actually are easily overlooked. And he came out and I became I was already interested because I'd encouraged him to do this. But yes, I felt what he had to say about the Four Noble Truths and Paticcasamuppada and the nature of what the Buddha was teaching, how the Buddha in those early sutras is really laying the ground so clearly, actually, especially if you've got, like we have, a transmission lineage, where we've got a transmission meditation lineage instructions, which enable us to see in those teachings what they're getting at. I think without that transmission, I think it's not so easy to see what he's getting at. And it's been interpreted in different ways and different levels over the centuries. And I'm really keen that we really look at those sutras and to see, what we're learning in the Mahamudra tradition, what we're learning in discovering the heart of Buddhism, is actually exactly what the Buddha was teaching in those early sutras. It's very direct, simple, and experiential. And if we're rooted in that those early suttas, then of course we're rooted in the whole of Buddhism, because it all came out of that. So I'm very keen that we work on that. And then the other whole big source of further teachings on this area is Khenpo Rinpoche's own approach to teaching, which is, of course, the progressive stages of meditation on emptiness, and then that goes up, breaks into, this is again the commentarial tradition, but he turns the commentarial tradition, which is a sort of philosophical, you might say, study, and he finishes each chapter with meditation instruction. It's about meditation. He really hammers that point home. And so that's why I think before we go into progressive stages, we need to learn a bit about meditation and about understanding what that view is that is we're taking stages towards. So that can be, I think, it's all going to dovetail together. And of course, the other thing that Khenpo Rinpoche teaches, another method he uses that we're also using, which is his yogic songs. The songs of Milarepa, the songs of the different yogins, his own songs, which are ways of helping to keep us connected to that right view. So that's his brilliant strategy. So we've got that. We've got many strings to our bow, haven't we? And then, of course, he's got Khenpo Rinpoche's sadhana of Mahamudra, which is, again, very much Upadesha, the pointing out instructions. It's all written, it's pointing out instructions. It's a sadhana, but without what we usually associate with sadhanas, which is the form aspect. So he says, well, you can just treat form as it naturally appears. You don't have to create a special form like a form of the deity. You can just, appearance, emptiness is us. We're already. So you could use your direct experience. And yet he's written it in this form of a sadhana with the stages. And then a sense of the transmission, the samaya, the Gana chakra, is brought into it in a way that we've been working on the Vajrasattva sadhana in the sadhana group. So we sort of worked on that, have a sense of what the sadhana is about. But this is now, this is like the essence of the sadhana, that you could actually just focus on that. Perhaps some people aren't really drawn to doing the more elaborate sadhanas, or maybe they would like to start with this formless sadhana, and some of us might like to start with the form and then work with the formless sadhana. That's it's a bit like working with the prajna way, working with the insight and the formless way, or the upaya way, which is working with the form of the rituals and the different stages of the practice. So that makes a kind of nice parallel. You could, like a sort of choice there of how you want to take the thing deeper and how you want to approach Abhisheka altogether. This whole idea of Guru Yoga and union with the Guru, using form or not using form. So there's a big conversation to be had there as well. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we could spend at least a year on each of those items, and still there would be more to work with if we wanted to. But at the same time, keeping that focus on it is about the same principles as in discovering the heart of Buddhism. It's like our true nature, our Buddha nature. Within that, within his work on teaching progressive stages, Khenpo Rinpoche does talk a lot about the Madhyamaka. So I'm hoping I'm going to be able to find time to talk about the Nagarjuna's Mula Madhyamaka Karikas. He's the root text for the Madhyamaka. I'm working on that. Might not be able to do it this year, but it's certainly something that we need to do as a Sangha. So that, and then if going back to what I said about the meditation and it being about shamatha and vipassana, we've got resources on that as well as these short Pranidhana texts. We've got Tashi Namgyal's clarifying the natural state that Khenpo Rinpoche gave us transmission for some years ago, and told everybody I would explain it to them in detail. But so that, I could spend the rest of my life sort of carrying out that instruction. And of course, then the longer version of that is Moonbeams, which Elizabeth has now translated, is available and has been teaching for about a year, I think. So, some of you have been following her course. So that again is part of the whole mix of teachings on insight and emptiness and Prajnaparamita, Mahamudra, the view. Yeah, I suppose it's the view, isn't it, really? So the motivation is the love and compassion, and the view is emptiness. So that's the plan for the year, and then an ongoing stream, if you like, of our Sangha study and meditation development. And I'm hoping over the course of the year we'll develop a better, increasingly more, maybe improving and working out how to create a situation where people can make further progress in their meditation. We've got quite a good system for mentoring people, setting them off on formless meditation, but it's a bit hit or miss then how their further development goes on over the years and decades. And everybody's journey is a bit different, but everybody needs somebody that they're able to talk to about their practice, because that's a very good way of stimulating and keeping it alive. And we all have people that if you have conversations with certain people because of the chemistry or something, you really feel that you're benefiting from them. And then sometimes that doesn't work so well, but nonetheless there's people that you can help, and then sometimes there's people that it's mutual, you're both getting a lot of help from each other. So we really want to facilitate that so it becomes available to everybody to find some way in which their practice kept alive over the years. So, because we're in this for life, aren't we? I mean, it's not, if not lifetimes. And working together and making pranidhanas for working together is really, really important, because without our Sangha companions, it's not going to be easy, is it? And it's not easy holding a Sangha together either. It takes many qualities and a lot of patience and a lot of goodwill and all good Dhamma qualities. So Sangha is very important contributing factor, really, to being able to succeed in following the path and getting to the point where you have right view and you can follow it through. Follow it through for the benefit of all beings. Yes. So it's all good, isn't it? So I think that's good. Good timing. So the idea is that tomorrow morning I'm going to give a talk to introduce the topic in more detail. And then I'm going to hand over to Dashu. And I'm really looking forward to hearing how he gets on, trying to present his discoveries. If he's anything like me, he's got too much to say, and he's going to have to kind of try and bring it to a point where he's not overloading you, but at the same time it's only the beginning of something. So he's going to come back round to all those points, and we'll have to work out ways for him to take this kind of study forward. I'm particularly interested in taking this point about Paticca Samuppada forward. It's usually translated as dependent arising. So, and I won't go into that because there's something there that needs a lot of unpicking. And I think tomorrow, when Dashi's speaking, we'll start that unpicking process and that clarification process about what do we really mean by dependent arising? What did the Buddha mean by it? How does it relate to what we call relative truth? How does it relate to what we hear about, the two truths and that kind of thing, which I think is presented in a very confused way. It's confused me for decades, and this is my chance. I've been trying to unpack the different threads there to get some clarity, and I think that what we're going to do this weekend is a good starting place to get some clarity about the whole tradition, really, and how it could be expressed, because obviously it's been translated, from the original vernacular that the Buddha was, and then it's been Sanskritized, then it's been gone into Tibetan, which is a language that doesn't really match, and then we've got English, which actually matches the Sanskrit much better, which is based on the vernacular which the Pali is a version of. So actually, the studies that have been done on the Pali has been a much further advanced than the studies that have been done in Tibetan and Sanskrit. And of course, you've got practitioners, meditators, who've been working on those texts for, I suppose, more than 100 years now. So they've got really good resources for what some of these words really, words that perhaps we can find in English which they couldn't find in Tibetan. There's many things to discover there. So part of what's going on that's making the whole thing a little bit, a bit of a tangle is all the different translation problems that have gone on. But I find it very exciting that when you go right back to the earliest scriptures and you read them with the scholarship of the practitioners in the Pali tradition. I call it Pali rather than Theravada because they're using the Pali sources, and Pali is the name of the language that they use for their scriptures. So, that's what we're talking about, the language of their scriptures. And yeah, we're Mahamudra, we belong to a Mahamudra tradition, so we're looking at them through those eyes, and it works really well. I get quite excited. Me and Dashu get quite excited about it. So that's the upcoming weekend. Just really going to be the start of something for the whole Sangha for decades to come, maybe centuries to come. Who knows? It's really a very exciting project. There you are. How's that for timing? Over to the Umzi.